Hey everyone, this is Clinton,
And this is Dalton.
and this is the LA Do Wrestling Podcast.
So without further ado, let's get ready to podcast!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the LA Do Wrestling Podcast, where we talk about all wrestling from the past, present, and future. Today we will be talking about our favorite Hell in a Cell matches of WWE history.
That's right. It keeps in the theme of October and Halloween, like we're doing our regular podcast, the LA Do podcast, which you could find, links will be in the description. You could also listen to the end, and we will say all those nice stuff. But like Clinton was saying, this is episode 5. We were talking about our favorite Hell in a Cell matches. Ever since its conception in 1997, there have been multiple Hell in a Cell matches. Most in the modern era have sucked very much. 2 of them, in fact, have ended in no contests.
Yes.
Because that's exactly how a Hell in a Cell is supposed to go. You know, you have Mankind falling off of a cell and, nearly dying, and yet, for fake reasons, you have to stop the match. I don't care if it was the Attitude Era. It sucks. Okay? It does. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some of our favorite Hell in a Cell matches, Glenn.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and start off with some of mine. One I like to talk about a lot is Randy Orton versus Undertaker at Armageddon 2005. This consisted of Orton and Undertaker in their feud when Orton was the Legend Killer, and this was right after WrestleMania 21 and their match at the pay-per-view. Randy was being managed by his dad, Cowboy Bob Orton, and he was really just being that, coward and trying to get away from Undertaker and maybe some of the other legends, but mostly Undertaker at this time.
Yeah, I would just say Undertaker because every other legend he went against head on.
Well, the only one that
behind.
really, Mankind maybe a little bit tried to get away, but besides that, everyone else.
All right, it is Mankind, but it's not.
Yeah,
it wasn't
Mick Foley at the time, yeah. But no, I think
that
this
was
was
just
the only one.
attacks, I think.
Yeah, this was the only one that he was really, I guess, in storyline scared to face. He had already faced him multiple times, but in Hell in a Cell.
Well, there's a reason that he was scared, though.
He thought he killed him.
Well,
That's
yeah, if you hadn't watched wrestling before now, back in 2005, during the Ruthless Aggression era, Orton and Undertaker, like Clinton was saying, they had a lengthy feud from WrestleMania to the end of the year. But Orton lost at WrestleMania. But they had a match, and at the end of it, well, actually, it was 2 different things, was it not? They had a casket match. It was a 2-on-1 handicap casket match. Orton beat him. Did he not set the casket on fire?
He set the casket on fire.
But then there was another time where he ran Eddie Guerrero's car into the back of the SmackDown stage, and it set fire and blew up, and pyrotechnics and stuff.
Yeah.
And Undertaker didn't come back until Survivor Series of that year, where Orton was the sole survivor. And then that's where he got scared.
Yeah.
And I know, building up the vignette for the package for the match leading up, it was, what's wrong, Randy? It looks like you've seen a ghost or something like that, just talking and messing with him. And, this was also the regular Undertaker shenanigans, like possessing Josh Matthews in the backstage segment, which was weird, especially in modern times. But it was okay. It's the Undertaker. Let it pass. But, this match it's not the best Hell in a Cell match.
It had story to it.
Yeah, it had story. They had to work with what they were given. Mm-hmm. And this is a little bit before the PG era, so they couldn't really do everything you could do in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
But they did what they could, especially with it still being a smaller cell, being a 15-foot cell.
They definitely, the thing was, is this was, like you were saying, this is the smaller cell before they decided to make it larger in the next year, I believe it was.
Was it the next year or was it 2 years after?
It was the next year. We'll actually get to it in a little bit, actually, of what the pay-per-view was in the match. But, it was a smaller cell, and, they had to work what they had to work with. And that was, they used the cell as a weapon. They used, I believe, chairs. I know they used a table. They used the steel steps. I mean, they used what they could use, and they took it to their advantage, and they totally just, I think that was probably the best match on that pay-per-view.
Probably.
But yeah, this one was a stronger Hell in a Cell, though. Yeah, they maybe you've had Hell in a Cell matches that were better, but at the same time, this one was definitely one of the top ones. I would put this probably in my top 5. I think it just had good storytelling to it, where the entire year they kind of had matches that were leading up to something big like this, and then at the very end it was like Randy couldn't run away. He finally got his. It's kind of like how it was with Edge and Undertaker, where it was like Edge was trying to get away from Taker, but then now he gets his chance to be in there and locked in the cell. But yeah,
I mean, like you said, it was they used what they could. They used what they could work with. That's any Hell in a Cell, though.
Oh yeah, for the most part.
Unless it's a modern one, and there's just a random mallet.
See, it's funny because I agree with the last couple Hell in a Cells, what you're saying, but at the same time, I also feel that it was mostly a lot of the ones at the beginning of the PG era, like 2009, 2010, 2011. Those Hell in a Cells weren't good.
Well, a majority of the modern ones aren't good.
I mean, I have a couple.
All of the modern ones.
I have a couple that I was going to talk about that were their like last 3 years, last 4 years.
God, that's going to be sad to listen to.
Oh no, it'll be good. Those ones were really good.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, but I know it's not really off topic because we're talking about Hell in a Cells, but I'm just gonna get it out of the way before we continue talking about, unless we are finished talking about the Randy Orton Undertaker Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, I think it's okay to move on now.
Well, I'll say this about it so we can finish it, so I can go off on this tangent. Of course, Undertaker was the winner. I think he's won. I don't know if he's won more than he's. I don't know if he's won more than he's lost.
Not sure.
Any match that he is in, I think the only one that he created or helped create was the casket match that he has more wins and losses in. But I mean, Taker won. It had a bloody finish, just like most good Hell in a Cell matches do. He even bloodied up Bob Orton, so that was good. And don't forget, also one of the main points of this match was the urn. Orton had stolen the urn. And so Taker got it back at the end, and he climbed to the top of the cell with the urn and did his signature pose with it. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was solid, but it's not the greatest just because it's two people. It's Orton's first Hell in a Cell. It's Undertaker's first Hell in a Cell probably in a couple years.
I agree.
I think the last one he had was probably 2000 at that point.
No, I think it was Brock Lesnar in 2002.
It was Lesnar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was also his last loss before 2010, before he lost.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you don't work in those types of matches all the time, and he might have been kind of rusty and didn't know what to do if he hadn't done it already. That kind of stuff. But Taker won, ended the feud, move on to 2006. But on to the tangent. Most modern Hell in a Cell suck for one reason.
I absolutely agree with that.
It's for one reason. You can't do the stuff you did in the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression eras. Because it's too PG. You have to, you gotta keep it PG. No blood. No, horrific violence.
Yeah.
Or if you do have somewhat horrific violence, it's gotta be, covered in red.
Yeah.
Red lighting, a red cell. The red cell looks like the one specific cage match in TNA where they had a red cell that looked like a mixture between Hell in a Cell and the Elimination Chamber, which sucked. And it just looks god-awful. You can't see anything through it, especially with the lighting. And this is about the Fiend match, the Fiend Seth Rollins match. And also, alright, so what Hell in a Cell do you know of that had a screwy finish?
Besides that one?
Okay, not screwy finish, I'll say. A no contest.
Well, you only have the two, which is Seth Rollins and Fiend, and then you have Brock, or the one that Brock got involved in, which was Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns.
Yes, well, let me rephrase it, because it's...
Yeah, I mean, that's what I got from that.
Matches that started that had a no contest, because there was, the tag team Hell in a Cell that was a no contest just because it never started. And that was Steve Austin and Undertaker versus Kane and Mankind. That was the only match that, never got started for a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
But like they ended in a no contest because the referee stopped the first match, which was a stupid decision. Like in storytelling, it was just dumb. You make the Fiend look weak. You make Seth Rollins look stupid more than he already did. And you made the fans hate everything already, and they wanted refunds, and I think they chanted AEW at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then with the year before with Braun and Roman, one, that ruins a Hell in a Cell match with having Brock come in and just rip off the door because, big Bork Laser, strongman, coming in, ripping off the door, and then just F5 at everybody and stops the match.
Yeah.
As if you couldn't continue that. You could totally finish a match, but no, you have to be stupid and just finish it like that. Also, that was a waste of a Money in the Bank cash-in. It's stupid. The booking is stupid. I could book a better show than that, probably. I can do it virtually in a freaking video game. I can do it better than half the Dota writers now.
See, I agree with that, but at the same time, my GM mode always falls apart at the end, so,
That's just because of... If you don't include... Alright, the GM modes is different because that's just games and, it's simulated to, screw you over, basically. I'm just talking about, if you listen to what people want, they actually do it. But the problem is, that's not even scratching the surface with Modern Hell in a Cells. Modern Hell in a Cell suck, like I said, because of the PG era, because you can't have any graphic violence or blood. But also, they don't use the cage. The Hell in a Cell is supposed to keep you in there. You're supposed to be caged in there and use it to your advantage. No one does that anymore. All they do is Irish whip into one of the sides, and that's it. That's all you do. You don't scrape their face against it anymore. You don't bash them in it. The closest thing to a good modern Hell in a Cell, there's only one. And I don't know if it's on your list or not. It's the Usos versus the New Day. That is the only, in my opinion, the only good modern Hell in a Cell because they actually utilized good weapons, the cage, and had a decent match.
Actually, that is on what I wanted to talk about, so let's go ahead and transfer right into it. The Usos and New Day had a great tag team Hell in a Cell match, probably one of the better tag team Hell in a Cell matches we've seen in the last couple of years. The only one I can really think of besides that one, I think, was DX versus Legacy. Yeah, in 2009. That was one of the last tag team Hell in a Cells that I remember.
That was the only ever standard Hell in a Cell match for tag teams.
But
other than that, it was a handicap match, and that's it.
No, but I really like Usos versus New Day because they took what they could with the Cell, but then they also used kendo sticks. You know what I mean? And I remember, I think it was Xavier Woods got into the corner of the Cell, and then the Usos put him in the in between the Cell and the kendo sticks, and that was really cool. Yeah, and I thought it was really cool. And so, I mean, that one was really interesting. It was cool, and it was definitely, even though I liked Shane versus Owens at the main event of that one, it couldn't top that one. That was the first match of the night, and it blew the, you know what I mean? It was just great. But even though I think Shane and Kevin Owens was fine, I thought that was a good match for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think that the ending with Sami Zayn and stuff wasn't my favorite. But that match was fine, but Usos and New Day really had it going from the start of that pay-per-view.
Yeah, and like I said, to me, that's the only good modern Hell in a Cell match because the other one sucked.
Can I bring up my other modern one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton, Hell in a Cell 2018. It was the first one with the red cell. However, that one I thought they just really used what they could with that. And
well, here's the thing: you have one person, you have Randy Orton, who's been in Hell in a Cell matches before.
Yeah,
I think it might have been. I don't even want to count it. Probably up to 5 or more at that point.
What, for Randy Orton, Hell in a Cell?
Yeah.
Well, you had Hell in a Cell with him and Undertaker. You had Sheamus and Orton. But before that, you had Cena and Orton. And I think they had another. Cena and Orton had another one.
Maybe. And then I know
Daniel and Orton had one. So that would have been the 6th.
5th or 6th. One of the two.
Yeah, I think during their feud with the WWE World Heavyweight title, I think Orton and... Well, no, that was the time of... Orton and Cena, I believe, did have another Hell in a Cell match during the Authority era, but I can't remember. But I think they did.
I don't know.
But 5th or 6th, Hell in a Cell.
Either way, like I said, 5 or more at that point. This was Hardy's first one. He'd never been in a Hell in a Cell match before, So he had to do what he could. And then, of course, he uses ladders and hanging off the top of the cell. And then, of course, Orton with the screwdriver and twisting it into his ear gauge. And,
It was pretty cool, though.
That was unnerving. He stretched him over the course of that match in in a segment before that on SmackDown, where he had put his finger and stretched it. It made him go up a gauge size or two.
It was about 2.
That's bad.
No, Orton and Hardy was really good. I really think that one was... It wasn't as good as Usos and New Day, but it was pretty close. Definitely one of the best Hell in a Cells in the last 5 years.
Then I'll take it back.
Those two.
I don't think
just 2.
It's just those two.
And then
those two modern
Shane
ones.
and Kevin Owens was okay.
But
that one I consider as being an okay one.
No,
but then, you have other Hell in a Cell matches from the last couple of years that were Like, even though Charlotte and Sasha Banks had the first women's Hell in a Cell,
God, it was bad.
It had nothing to do with them. It had to do with the fact that it was pretty much just Charlotte burying Sasha Banks.
It just wasn't good. The match wasn't good. You had a planned spot that gets botched because you completely missed the table. I'm not gonna say much about it. It just sucked.
And then you had one. I think it was the same night. I think it was Reigns and Rusev for the United States Championship.
Even that.
That one was bad.
Out of the 3 Hell in a Cell matches that Roman Reigns has had as a singles competitor, they've all sucked.
Yeah.
Braun, Wyatt, and Rusev, they all suck. Because
Seth and Ambrose would have been.
Sucks.
Ambrose and Rollins would have had a good, decent Hell in a Cell match if Bray didn't come in with that light.
No,
you know
I don't think at that point they would.
It was fine, but
I don't know.
But then you have Shane and Undertaker at WrestleMania 32 was okay, but it was just 2 old men wrestling in a cage. But I think Shane jumping off was pretty cool, which they recreated over and over and over again. But it was
one more time.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's fine.
Well, I stick to what I said, or stick to what I rephrased. Only 2 of them don't suck. The rest of them suck.
Yeah.
Everything prior to 2009 for Hell in a Cell was good, or okay, at best. And speaking about prior to 2009, one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches from 2008 was the SummerSlam Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Edge. Just because of storytelling.
Yeah.
And the final spot. And I know we argued for about 8 minutes in the last episode. Thank you, Ethan, for letting us know that. But no argument in here, because I think you even said you had this one on your list too. And it's not really a list. We're just
I didn't really have it on my list, but I kind of just compared it to the Orton one. But the only thing is that spot at the very end is after the match.
I know.
It was over already.
I know. But it's the storytelling.
Yeah.
I think it rode off Edge for a little bit.
I mean, he kind of got sent to hell, I would like to think.
Well, it was brutal. It was a brutal match just because when you think about it, it was already a bigger cell, so it wasn't as small as Undertaker had previously been used to. This was Edge's first Hell in a Cell, probably only Hell in a Cell. They battle inside the ring. Edge spears Taker outside through the cage wall. That might have been. Was that not the first time that's happened?
I think so. I think all the other times they got out through the door.
Or they had unlocked it or something.
Yeah.
Or they weren't able to get out. Well, hold on. Did Michaels and Taker, did they get out through the door?
I'm not. Well,
or did they break through too?
I can't remember. Something on the lines of that.
Well, either way, it was the first time in that cell that they broke through. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And then, outside the ring, you got, I think they did a spear spot through the announce table where Edge hopped over one and then speared him on the other one. I mean, that's brutal. And in the match in its entirety, I think Taker, it was another Taker win. It's another Taker dominated match. There might have been, I think Taker got busted open. I think Edge got busted open too. It was 1-2. But it was a good way to end their feud just because a Hell in a Cell match is a great way to end a feud. Because 2 people go in there and they fight, not to the death, but pretty much to the death. Because, you're caged in there unless you break out. Like they did, but it doesn't matter. I think it was the last great modern Hell in a Cell match. Because they didn't have one in Armageddon. I think that was the last Hell in a Cell match of '08 before it went to '09, before they had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Or did they? Yeah, they did a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in '09. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one.
I was trying to remember.
Because they got rid of Armageddon, they got rid of Unforgiven, and all that stuff. That was the last year of No Way Out for a bit until they brought it back in 2012. Backlash, Judgment Day, all of those.
Bash.
That one doesn't count. Those last two just don't count. The last year of the Bash was 2007.
What a great American Bash.
The one that counted, the one that mattered.
But
I actually rewatched the Bash from 2009 here recently, like the whole pay-per-view. It was fine, but there was too many screwy finishes.
That's what happens when you have bad booking.
Like you had Cena bury the Miz, you had Jeff get disqualified. They restarted that match 3 times. It kind of reminds me of SummerSlam 2009, where they restarted the Day Championship match like 3 times. You had
Bad
Triple
booking.
H versus Orton, I think, again, and it was meh. The last championship scramble for the ECW title, all that stuff. So it was fine, but it was mostly bad booking. The only thing that was good and was cool, the only thing that was really cool, I thought, was the whole Jericho and Edge coming together and winning the Undisputed Tag Team titles. Or Unified Tag Team titles, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Undisputed, Unified, same difference. They changed the name anyway.
But it was pretty cool.
Yeah, but before that, before the last good Hell in a Cell match, before not the Attitude Era, the PG era, we already talked about the 05 Orton versus Undertaker match, but another one was in 05, Triple H versus Batista at Vengeance 05. And that was good, also for a storytelling reason. They had just came off of their it was WrestleMania 21. They just came off of. Batista had beat Triple H. I was about to say the wrong thing. I was about to say he won the Royal Rumble. Ooh, that was about to be bad.
Who, Batista?
Yeah.
Well, Batista did, but...
No, not in that one, no.
For 21?
Did he win 05?
Yes.
God, I was just thinking of 2015.
Because he won 05 because that was the one that had to do with Vince and Cena and all that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. I was about to say the right thing then, but instead I messed myself up. He won the Royal Rumble.
Because it's that whole thing. I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's that whole thing of Cena and Batista were the last two in the Royal Rumble, but Cena still got his day title match against JBL. He won, and then Batista beat Triple H. So they both got the world title matches, and they both won. But they were the final two, and even though Cena didn't win, he still got his chance. So, I mean, that's the whole thing with that pay-per-view, and they brought it up when Batista and Cena had a feud in 2010. So that's why I was just bringing that one up, but yeah.
Well, and Vince blew his quads.
Yes.
That's funny. It's horrible, but it's funny. But, like I said, they began their feud there. Well, the feud was already kind of brewing, but he chose to go against Triple H at WrestleMania. He chose to fight him. He won. They had a series of matches leading up to Vengeance, but this was the big one because it was the final nail in the coffin for their feud for the most part at that time. Batista was coming in as the champ. I don't know if there was a certain stipulation. I don't know if they had said something about if Batista lost, he'd have to go to SmackDown or something.
Well, there was the whole thing of a couple months before. I think it was a couple months before that because Evolution was kind of still around. I'm not referring to post WrestleMania 21. I'm talking about pre WrestleMania 21. But it was like a whole thing of Evolution was still kind of around and all that stuff. But then the whole, the draft thing or not the draft, but he had to choose if you want to go to SmackDown or if you want to go to Raw or stay on Raw, and they were trying to convince him and all that stuff. But that was like a while after or whatever. Yeah. But stuff like that. Yeah. So they had already. This was pretty much the end of it. It was the end of Evolution and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the match, they were both battered and bloody, and Batista, for some reason, chose to wear white.
Yeah, trunks. I was going to say that was right.
White and red trunks.
Yeah.
When they both, clearly they planned. They both clearly.
Maybe he wanted blood on the attire. Maybe that's why.
Maybe
he just
they both clearly planned to either blade or use a blood capsule. I don't know if they bladed. They might have.
At that point, I think they were still blading, but they might have used blood capsules.
That's actually a good episode. Talk about the history of blading, or try to talk about the history of blading. That'd be cool. But just because Halloween, blood, that kind of stuff. But you know, they were both bloody by the end of it. Batista did win. I think Triple H might have more losses than wins in Hell in a Cell.
Oh yeah,
I think he might be the one person I was thinking of. Voice crack. But you know, it was a good match. It was bloody. It was brutal. I think they had a steel chair, or not steel chair, steel step spot. A Batista bomb on the steel steps.
I
if I'm
think
not
so.
wrong. That also might have been Undertaker and Batista. Maybe.
That cell was whack. I did not like that match.
Yeah, well, it's not on my list, so I ain't gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was whack, he says, because the finish, Edge came in and speared Undertaker.
I just thought it was dumb.
That was 07. So
Like, we didn't need...
That kick-started the feud, did it not?
Yeah, we didn't need another
Or continued the
Edge.
feud.
We didn't need another Edge interfering, dress up as someone, all that bullcrap, because he did it with Cena and RVD anyway.
Yeah, but it was different this time. He was a cameraman.
Nah. And what was the time during One Night Stand? He literally had a motorcycle helmet with a jacket on.
Just like Ember Moon.
He wasn't supposed to be anyone. He just kind of ran in all dressed up and ready to go. You know, bullcrap like that. I don't know. But that match I didn't like.
Hide your wives, it's Edge.
Hide your wives, it's Edge. But no, going and moving on.
I brought that up in the Edge episode.
No, I don't think you should have.
Wow, it's funny.
Okay, but moving on to the next year, we were in 2005. Moving on to 2006. This is the match where they changed the size of the cell, and that was Degeneration X versus Vince and Shane McMahon and the Big Show at Unforgiven 2006.
I just remember that match because Triple H and Shawn Michaels shoved Vince McMahon's head up his ass, up Big Show's ass.
Well, it was funny because that was funny in general, but that match was kind of funny because they were all on Raw, but Big Show was the ECW champion. You know, so they just like grabbed him because he's like, oh, he's big. We're just gonna grab him on and put him. They could have used was Umaga in there, but yeah, they could have used Umaga. You know, I think he was already there. He was early in his career, so
they needed a bigger man. They needed a bigger ass.
Yeah, but no, this match was pretty good. I like the spot where the coast to coast happens when Triple H has the trash can on, you know, right there, and gets his face all bloody on the side.
Well, it bust opens his ear.
Yeah. And then you had the spot where Shane, I like to think he bit into a blood capsule.
A blood capsule.
Yeah, and
there's
it went
no
through
way
his
that
mouth.
they did that. Unless he bit onto his tongue, but even then, I don't think they would have been that.
But besides the whole, you know, Triple H and Shawn Michaels shoving Vince's head up Big Show, the spot where Triple H takes the sledgehammer and
it's right after that spot.
Yeah, and he just hits Vince over the neck.
He cracks the sledgehammer over Vince's neck, and it snaps it. It was just a good finish, just because, you know, you see the good guys, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, win. They're both bloody. They're all bloody at that point. Big Show has a bloody ass because of Vince McMahon's face.
I think this match was just really cool because it's the first official handicap Hell in a Cell match.
Well, and it was the first Hell in a Cell to be bigger, and they made it bigger in storyline because of Big Show.
Yeah, even though he could have fit in the other one.
I think they made it bigger just because. Well, I don't know. He's 7 foot tall. The cage itself is around 15, 16 feet.
As long as he didn't get on
the ring stands probably around 8
as
or
long
9.
as he didn't get on any of the ropes, like, you know, the turnbuckles, he would have been fine. No need for it to make it bigger. They just wanted to make it bigger.
Yeah, but also I do think it was because, all right, they can't fit Big Show in there.
They could have, though.
They
really could have.
I don't think they could have, because what is the standard? I think, all right, put it in perspective. Nobody can see this right now, but we got Clinton's desk right here. We got his desk. I'd say the apron is a little bigger than this. It's about where we have a computer right now sit on top of a box on top of the desk, so that we can, you know, see the computer and pause, stop, whatever. A little behind the scenes stuff. It doesn't matter. I'd say that's about the height of the apron.
Okay, yeah.
So that's probably, let me stand up real quick. That's probably maybe 4 feet.
Okay.
Maybe 5. It's not 5. It's about 4 feet or something. Maybe bigger for a WWE size ring.
Yeah. That size ring was a little bigger.
That's not including around the 4 feet, 4 or 5 feet for the ropes. So you add on that, that's 9 feet, roughly. And then the turnbuckle, so it's roughly like 9 or 10 feet for the ring itself. You add on Big Show, who's 7 foot, that's already going to be, over it. And him, towering, standing in the ring, towering above the post, he's already taller than it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel that you were just comparing, when Randy Orton and Undertaker had that match, and you were saying that
Orton stood on top
was able to grab the top of the cell from the middle rope. He was able to he wasn't like, squished in. He was able to go all the way up with his arms and grab the top of the cell, right? Randy Orton's like 6'5". Now, I'm not saying that that's even close to 7 foot, 7'1", but what I'm saying is, as long as he didn't get on any of the turnbuckles, I feel that it would have been okay. However,
I'm just saying because of his. Well, also, all right, don't think about his height. Think about his reach. Big Show's reach with his arm he would have
had a little bit of room.
No, he would. I don't think he would have.
I don't know.
I think he would have been able to grab the cell and even put his hand through one of the things. So trying to get a choke slam,
that would really be fun to like find like a what can Big Show fit in, and
yeah, just make that a network series or something. But like, say I know he did a choke slam spot. He had to have done a choke slam spot on like Shawn Michaels or something. Big Show at that point in 05, or it wasn't 05, it was 06. He lifts him up, all the way up, holds him, and then slams him down. Say it was Shawn Michaels, if he got him to a choke slam, he would have his head would have been hit the thing, realistic probably through the thing. I just don't think it would have worked. And like, while yes, they probably had a different reason of why they changed it. They probably wanted to look more menacing. But realistically, Big Show really wouldn't have been able to work in that ring. You know what I mean? I don't think.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I say that. And I don't want to go into an argument about it. But
no, I mean, I agree. I just I just feel that maybe he would have been able to get in, but who knows?
I feel like he would have been able to get in, but to work in it.
The point is, I think they wanted to make it look more menacing, so they just kind of made it larger. But, that's just me, though. Who knows?
Well, moving on. Since we're kind of going back in time a little bit, I'll go to I don't know what you exactly have left on your, like, little groups. But since I mentioned it earlier, let's go and talk about it. The Armageddon 2000 Hell in a Cell 6-man match. This match was against, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I kind of went off of memory of who was in it. It was Triple H, Rikishi as a heel, American Badass, Big Evil, Undertaker, Steve Austin, The Rock, and the current, or at the time, current WWF champion, Kurt Angle.
That is correct.
Okay, I was just making sure. I wrote it down a little bit and just did it off of memory. It was the first 6-man match. You would think they would have a bigger sell for this, just because there was a lot of people.
Yeah.
I will say the match was not contained at all. They did not stay in the ring long at all. You had 6 people. It was bound to get hairy. The match got out of hand quick. They were already outside the ring at that point. I think even before the bell rang, they got out of the ring pretty quick. I don't think they were all 6 inside the ring all at one time. It was always like 2 people at a time were in the ring. By the end of that, I think literally everybody was busted open, probably. Maybe except for Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle could have been busted open. I'm not sure. Some notable spots. They did a back body drop, I'm pretty sure, onto a car. Because the set at Armageddon 2000, it was like a scrapyard. They had
kind of looked like Over the Edge.
Yeah. Or like a broken down version of like Over the Limit.
Yeah.
2010 or something like that. I know they did spots in the car and stuff, broke windshield, stuff like that. It wasn't a scissor cam. I don't think that's what it's called. Like a camera on a crane. I know Rock threw it into, I believe, Triple H on a car. Vince McMahon drove a big old truck full of like cedar clippings and stuff. That was a tool that they used later. But he tried to stop the match. He didn't approve of the match. He wanted to tear the cell down. They hooked it. I think they drug off the door.
Yeah.
That's when things started getting haywire. That's when everybody was able to leave. They drug the door down. And that's when everybody started piling outside. But everybody at that point was already fighting outside the ring anyway. Mick Foley came out, stopped Vince. I know somebody tried to smash somebody's head through a glass window. I think it hit something else. It was just a weapon that hit. It was nobody. But the most memorable moment from this match is when Undertaker and Rikishi, that big Samoan, are on top of the cell, and he's teetering close to the edge, and he's so close. Undertaker keeps hitting him, and then he just grabs him by his throat and throws him off the cell onto that truck. And that was some bounce that truck gave, you know what I mean? They had the cedar clippings, the cedar, it's probably mulch. And when he threw him, that cushioned his fall. But good God, the suspension on that truck was probably shot, because that was, like I said, probably 16 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Falling onto it. Rikishi's a big boy. You know what I mean? He's a big Samoan. It was not going to end well for that truck, I don't think, with its suspension. And of course, Kurt Angle retains. I think he pinned The Rock.
I believe so, yeah.
He stole a pin from somebody. I don't remember.
Stone Cold.
It was Stone Cold, okay. Stole a pin from Stone Cold, won the match, got stunned after. Stone Cold, big hero, standing tall at the end of the match, flipping everyone off like he does. I mean, it was the first 6-man. The only other match to come even close to that was a dark match. That was like, what? Was it a 5-man?
Something like
a
that.
7-man?
It doesn't count.
It had Cena in it. Cena, CM Punk, Miz, I think Del Rio, Jack Swagger,
Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph
I think
Ziggler.
was also that. It doesn't count.
Somebody else must have been in that match tonight, because I think it was a 7-man.
R-Truth, maybe? Maybe. It was when he was heel, you know what I mean?
Maybe,
so
maybe. Like I said, it was a dark match. It doesn't matter anyway. It didn't count. It's not really on the record books. If you want, they do have it, but
how cool would it be though? Like, yeah, it was garbage, but hear me out. How cool would it have been? You just show up on a Raw, and there's a Hell in a Cell up there. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, in some cases, when you showed up on like a Raw or SmackDown, they did have the cell. That was just because of promotion, so it would be lowered at one point, and you would see a little bit of a fight. I don't think, other than a dark match, there's never been a Hell in a Cell on a Raw or a SmackDown. Or has there?
I think that tag team, the Stone Cold,
That's
Undertaker,
right.
that was Raw's
team.
War.
It was a Raw, but it never really happened, so it didn't really count.
But yeah, that's the only one I think.
Or was there? No, there probably wasn't. Everything else.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there was a SmackDown one, but there wasn't.
No.
But
plenty of steel cages on that one though.
I think you have one. Do you have one or two more left?
I got 2.
You go ahead and say one of yours, because it could be one of mine.
Triple H versus Cactus Jack. No Way Out 2000.
Okay.
I wanted to bring this one up because this is one I don't really watch all the time, but it was important to, I like to say, to the Attitude Era, because this was the match
This was the beginning of 2000, right?
Yeah.
This was like, what, No Way Out 2000 or something?
Yeah. This was pretty much the match that said that if Cactus Jack lost, then his career was over. Now, of course, you know, Triple H did win, spoiler alert, but the thing is that he came back later on and stuff, but it took a bit. It took a couple years.
The thing about retirement in wrestling, it doesn't last ever.
No.
Look at Ric Flair.
Edge.
Well, not forced retirement. Like when it comes to storyline retirement, when someone says, you know, if they lose the match, they'll be retired. It doesn't matter, because they always come back.
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn, Mick Foley, Ric Flair, but that was in TNA, so it doesn't really count. Or it does count, but you know.
Are you saying that people who wrestle in TNA don't count?
Yeah, pretty much. nowadays. But we'll get to that later on.
TNA is getting better.
I want to talk about the history of TNA in a 2-part episode sometime, but talk about my disdain for the modern TNA. But we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's kind of like how in superhero comics or movies, no one stays dead. Really, in the comics, no one stays dead. They always come back in one way or another. You can't count on a wrestler retiring for long. Unless they really get old. Or, almost break their neck like Edge did. But even then, he came back, so it really didn't matter. Or Daniel Bryan. You know what I mean? So it really didn't matter. But the only thing I remember that match, one is that I know Stephanie was in Triple H's corner. I don't think she got involved. She might have slapped Cactus Jack. She might have got hit by accident by Triple H. There might have been an apron spot. I think there was an apron spot, but I could be mistaken.
I hate the fact that every time I hear the name Cactus Jack, I think about McDonald's.
Oh, God.
I know that's so sad, but it really, I can't get it on my head now.
Let's just get this straight. That's not the real Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack is Mick Foley. He will always be Cactus Jack. But speaking of Cactus Jack, the only spot that really I remember from that match is the flaming, I think it was a 2x4? A flaming 2x4. Cactus Jack trying to hit Triple H. That doesn't work, and Triple H back body drops Cactus Jack through the cage, through the ring. It breaks the ring. It's a recreation, a staged recreation of the Mick Foley stunt from the original the second Hell in a Cell, where he goes through the ring. But this time, padded, and it was okay. But, yeah, that's just the only spot that I remember from that match.
I mean, I think it's...
And the stipulation.
Yeah, I just feel like it's overall important to the Attitude Era because, Cactus Jack, or Mick Foley in general, having to retire until the Ruthless Aggression Era, which was...
That had to be post-WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think so.
It had to have been because Mick Foley wrestled at WrestleMania 2000.
Well, no, I think actually he actually got brought back in for that or something like that.
Doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure. However, my point is that, this was an important match. Yeah, maybe it's not my favorite to watch all the time. I'd probably watch...
Well, it was important just because
it's a good
set
match.
Up for later
It's a really great match between two that were good in the Hell in a Cell match. But the thing is, it's just the whole thing of, like... I probably would rather watch Orton and Undertaker because more of a storyline that I can go with. But that one was important. So that's why I wanted to speak about it because, yeah, it is important, you know?
Well, I'll be damned. It wasn't 2000.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. What in the world? So, okay, so it was Triple H was champion. Okay, I forget about that.
Yeah, it was for the WWF Championship. But anyway, I mean...
That's weird. So, as I said before, even if you retire in wrestling, it doesn't matter because they'll bring you back in storyline a month or two later.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Anyway, but I know you got a couple you want to talk about,
I got
so
two.
I'm going to go ahead and talk about mine. Last one before. Like I said, this is obviously in a ranking, but these are some I just wanted to bring up. I know the ones that you want to talk about aren't the ones that I'm talking about. So I just wanted to bring that one up, and that is the end of an era match, Triple H versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 28.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that match. Okay, 3 modern Hell in a Cell matches.
Yeah.
I forgot about that match. Mostly, I just think of the matches at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, no. This match was really good. It was supposed to be the end of an era, but it really wasn't because they brought it back for Super Showdown.
They brought it back twice.
Yeah, I think it was Crown Jewel, the other one.
Yeah.
But one Saudi show, one Australia show. And then, Sean came back in Saudi Arabia.
That was a disgrace.
But, this one was pretty good, though. They were getting a little old, but they were still kind of in the primes. And Shawn Michaels was the special guest referee.
They were past their prime.
Yeah, but they were still able to put on one of the best matches at pay-per-view.
Yeah, they can
probably the best match of that pay-per-view.
They could still work, but they were well past their prime.
The only other match that really kind of kept up with that in that pay-per-view was Punk Jericho. But yeah, no, I think that match was pretty good, though. I mean, it definitely was one of the better matches at the pay-per-view. So.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it should have been the end of that era.
If you look, it should have been the main event. If you look at that, oh no, wait, never mind. I just remember what the main event was.
Rock versus Cena, baby.
Oh, the first one. Never before, never again. Bull.
Once in a lifetime, that happened 2 times.
Oh, and yeah, it was once in a lifetime. Never before, never again was a Survivor Series 2011.
Yeah, because they
tag.
The Rock and John Cena tagged to go against R-Truth and The Miz.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Still, it was a bunch of BS. If you look back on that card, really, it was the only good match on there.
Well, the Big Show got his first IC title.
Yeah, but nobody remembers that.
I do. He went against Cody Rhodes. Like the second, third match of the card, besides Kane and Randy Orton. Remember that crap?
That's what I'm saying. It was garbage.
What was it? Kelly and the other Maria?
It was Kelly and Maria Menounos and somebody else versus like Beth Phoenix, Eve Torres. Eve Torres might have been on the other one, on the other team.
No, it was a 2-on-2.
Was it 2-on-2?
Yeah, it was a 2-on-2.
Okay.
Remember WrestleMania 27 when it was Trish Stratus, John Morrison, and Snooki?
Let's not talk about
versus all the other people. Yeah.
Let's not talk about Snooki.
No, anyway,
especially in wrestling.
But going back to WrestleMania 28, it's a great match. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's just a really good match. It's almost an hour long. If you haven't seen it, just watch it on the Day Network or wherever you can find it.
Most of Undertaker's later WrestleMania matches are close to an hour.
Yeah, no, but that one's a good match. I definitely look at it. But go ahead and move on to your two because I know there are probably the 2 most famous Hell in a Cell matches.
Well, one is more infamous than famous, and that was the King of the Ring 1998 Hell in a Cell match between Mankind and The Undertaker. The most talked about Hell in a Cell match in history. The most, probably the most watched Hell in a Cell match in history. Just because of the crap that happens. Like you were saying earlier, the match doesn't even start until they get in the ring. And this is after Mankind climbs the top of the cage with a steel chair and Undertaker follows him. They battle. They actually they break the cage on top. I think Taker steps through it by accident. So it already shows that it's not meant to be walked on.
Didn't Undertaker wrestle this match with like a fractured ankle?
He had a fractured ankle, yeah. Just because Undertaker at that time in the 90s, he powered through everything. He put off a lot of surgeries. He put off a lot of stuff, I think, during that time. And hit it, I think. But, yeah, he was wrestling with a broken ankle, fractured ankle, something like that. And then the first of 2 infamous things during this match, Undertaker chokeslams, or not really chokeslams, he tosses him right off of the cell through the announce table. This is pre-padding. This is not a padded announce table. This is before that. This is full-fledged like wood and whatever the announce tables were made of at that point. Yes, you had, the floor was padded, but where the announce table was, that was concrete. And this is, like I said, 98. So he goes through the table. I think at that point he was knocked out. Undertaker said in later interviews he was just saying, please don't be dead. He thought he killed him. Mankind gets stretchered away, but he gets off the stretcher. Comes to, gets off the stretcher. At this point, they had lifted the cell a little bit because they had to get the stretcher around the cell. They lower it back. Taker's still on top. He doesn't get off. Mick Foley goes back. Mask off and everything. Climbs to the top of the cage again. Probably already has a concussion at that point. Starts fighting the Undertaker a little bit on top of the cage. Tells him to choke slam him. Taker choke slams him and breaks the cage. The cage was not supposed to be broken. This was not planned. The chair goes with him, I think, so he also lands on the chair a little bit that he threw up there. Falls through the cage. The fall knocks teeth from his mouth through his mouth and gets lodged in his nose. The man's got probably has another concussion at that point. On top of his other one, he could not work. Taker carries him through the rest of the match. You have a little thing with Terry Funk after they make sure, not kayfabe, really make sure that he's okay. Undertaker choke slams Terry Funk literally out of his shoes. And in an interview that for Inside the Rope that McFoley had done, he said he looked up and thinking, where did those shoes come from? Because legit, he did not realize that Terry Funk had actually gotten in the ring and took a choke slam and choke slammed him out of his shoes. He didn't know about it. He was out of it. And yet, Mick Foley still was able to do a spot with thumbtacks. And I think take a tombstone and then finally end the match. I think he said that even Vince went back to him. He said, something about, I know you'll do anything for this company, but never do that again. I think he agreed with him. But other than the, 11 chair shots that he took to the head from The Rock?
Yeah,
unprotected.
at Royal Rumble.
Other than that, I think that was the scariest thing he's ever done, probably, for his health and for the wrestling business. So, it's the most infamous Hell in a Cell match ever. Probably. But also the most famous. And the only thing that comes second to that is the first ever Hell in a Cell match in 1997 at Bad Blood. In Your House Bad Blood. I'm sorry. I forget they had those stupid names.
But this Bad Blood had 2 D's at the end, so it was BADD.
Yeah. But this was a grudge match between Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I think Michaels was the European champion at that point, right?
Yes.
Bret Hart. The whole thing stemmed from Shawn Michaels being the special guest referee for the Hart versus Soul match at SummerSlam. It was Undertaker versus WWF champion Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels botches a chair shot to Bret Hart and hits Undertaker by accident, costing him the match. This sets up Bad Blood, the first ever Hell in a Cell match. It was brutal just because it was the first one, so they literally could have done anything. I know they both got busted open. I know Shawn really got bloody. I don't remember how, but I think Triple H let them out, or he tried to let Shawn out, and then Taker followed him. Shawn tried to climb the cage to get away. Taker grabbed him and slammed him through or he climbed with him or something and hit him down, and he fell through the announce table below. Kind of reminiscent of what Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins would do in 2015. No, 2014. Right? Yeah, it was 2014.
I believe so, yeah.
It was it was post Money in the Bank, pre WrestleMania 31. So it was 2014. But, it was brutal. But this match, other than being the first ever Hell in a Cell match, is known for one thing, and Clinton, what's it gotta be? Say it. You know you want to say it. You know you want to.
That's gotta be Kane!
It was the debut of Kane. They had built it up for so long, saying that, Undertaker's brother was still alive. You didn't kill him. Paul Bearer was coming out, telling the Undertaker that his brother was still alive. He was going to come after him. This is the first appearance by Glenn Jacobs, who is the real name of Kane. His first appearance as Kane. He didn't want to mess it up. Rips off the cage door. Stands toe-to-toe with the Undertaker. Is taller than the Undertaker. And tombstones him, causing him the match. It was probably one of the most iconic debuts in at least WWF history. WWE history. It's one of the most well-known because just the size of them, the flames, the music, the lighting, the look, the mask, everything. It was great. You know what I mean? It was really cool, and it really cemented that Hell in a Cell just because of Kane's debut. This is what really the Hell in a Cell is known for. Besides being the first ever Cell match, it's the debut of Kane.
Yeah.
even, God, how long has it been? Over 22 years? 22 years
About
now?
22 years, yeah.
Almost 20, or probably right at 22 was the first Hell in a Cell. It's the anniversary of the Hell in a Cell, I know. I think this month or last month, one of the two. But, yeah, Hell in a Cell is a big deal for a lot of wrestling fans if you're a fan of WWE/WWF. You know, it's one of the most beloved match types because of the brutality that it had, the sheer size and structure of the match in the cage itself, and the fact that you know that this is where, you know, feuds die, at least it used to be. It used to be good.
Yeah.
Here's hoping that at least this Hell in a Cell, if they do have a Hell in a Cell match this year in the Thunderdome, the Amway Center, hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it won't be red. Because if you can barely see it in a live event with a bunch of fans on TV screens. I don't think it's gonna look good. Hopefully they decide something better if they do have it. I don't know how they would have it, but if they do, let's hope that it's good. But anyway, Clinton, do you have any closing statements? Possibly an idea of what the next episode could be?
Yeah. I feel that maybe, this definitely is one of my favorite topics because I feel like the Hell in a Cell match is actually one of the coolest matches that has ever been made. But I think to continue the Halloween spirit and, continuing stuff like that, I think we should talk about one more match type before we go. And I think we should talk about the Buried Alive match. There's only a few, so...
Yeah,
I feel like it would be nice to talk about and just talk about all of them because there is only about a handful of them.
Yeah, there's really not a lot.
So whether they're great, whether they're trash, I think it's one of those things we got to talk about.
Just go over the history of the Buried Alive match.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll conclude episode 5. As always, I'm Dalton. You can find me on Instagram at LADoBrand. You can also follow our wrestling podcast editor, Ethan, at EthanThompson__ on Instagram.
You can follow me on Instagram at ClintonWells2001, but you can also follow our music engineer Chance at chance.cummings.507. Follow the wrestling podcast at LADoWrestling_podcast and our regular podcast at LADo_podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.